Hey, church family, welcome to Pastor's Update. And I wanted to start off with this mask on to show you that we're supporting the wearing of the masks here at the church. It's not ideal, it's not fun, but we do wear them. It's not necessarily fashionable either, but they do work. And as you know, you probably heard already or through the grapevine, or maybe you even saw a newscast that told us that we're going to be wearing these in public going forward, starting Friday, July 5th. So I want to let you know that we're exercising at the church. So when you come in the church, please have your mask on. And then if you come to the coffee area, grab a coffee and you want to sit down and talk to someone, once you're seated, we've got the chairs set up, the table set up so that you're 6 feet apart. At that point, if you choose to let it down and talk, that's fine, but put it back on as soon as you're ready to get up. We want to make sure that we're doing our part to minimize the infection of the virus. And I know this is not a fun thing to be a part of, but know this. As many reports out there that say that the masks are ineffective, there are many more that say that they are. And my thought is if the professionals in the medical field are wearing them, then we should wear them. And yes, ours aren't quite like theirs, but remember this, it's not to protect us, it's to protect those around us, because we may be asymptomatic. We may be a person that has it, but we don't know it, and we know that it is transferred through touch and through water droplets that come from our speaking. And so if we can maintain our water droplets in our little space and avoid getting in someone else's, then we minimize the transfer of the virus in case we have it. So we don't want to give it to anybody. And that's the bad part. Sometimes we may not know we have it and transfer. We don't want to do that. And so we're going to exercise that. So as much as you may not like it, please have a mask on when you come in the church, and then we'll be caring for our neighbor and loving our neighbor as well. I wanted to move to this next segment called the Extended Church. We did not expect, I certainly did not expect that we would be in this situation for as long as we had. I was hoping like crazy that we would be already back and we would be worshiping together and doing ministry together, but that is not happening. The COVID virus is skyrocketing again, it is spiking. We have many families in our communities that surround us that are ill. Please be praying for them. In our church alone, we've had 4 individuals who have contracted it. They're all okay, don't worry about that. They're all just fine. But they have spoken to me that it was one of the most difficult illnesses they've ever worked through, and don't wish it upon anybody. So know that it is real, that it is challenging, that it is difficult to get through, and it is important for us to minimize that. And so what that means is church might be going on like this for a while. And so what I want to encourage you to is to, as you think about your particular walk and how you deepen your relationship with God, small groups / engaged groups, you're going to hear a lot more about engaged groups, are really important to your particular growth, your depth of growth with God. And if you're not in a small group, I encourage you to get into one. The Zoom groups, again, not ideal, right? They're not ideal. They're not face-to-face. You're not right next to each other, but you are seeing each other, and it is an effective way to grow into the Word deeper and deeper. And so here's what you do. I would encourage you in the next 2 weeks, just really pray over it and go out to our website, fbcolathe.org. Go ahead and get on there and go to Let's Connect. It's one of the menu items. Click on that, fill out that form, and send it in. It's a really simple form. It takes literally less than 30 seconds to fill it out once you're on there, because I want you to get involved in these groups. And one of the ways to be deeper with God is to be deeper in His Word with your brothers and sisters, hearing their testimonies. Listening how do people interpret the text and why, because their experiences really do, they're powerful in that. And God allows us to share those things so that we can see it from a different perspective. And in that, we have knowledge that goes beyond what we had before, and we grow deeper. And so I encourage you to get into a small group. So please pray over that. And again, I'm encouraging that you get into a small group. That's one of the ways we're going to grow deeper right now, especially since we're in this process of isolation. Lastly, I'd like to say thank you so much for supporting the ministry here at First Baptist, even in this weird time. All of you have shown your faith in the ministry and the faith of the church as we are as one body doing work together. And so the monetary gifts that keep coming in, amazing. The food donations that keep coming in, amazing. thank you for that, and know that it is certainly appreciated, because the mission of Christ never stops. And even when we have situations like this that are new and challenging and we've never walked through them, we don't stop proclaiming who Christ is, whether it's through a sermon or a Bible study, and certainly through being good stewards of the things God gives to us. And so I just want to extend a thank you to you all who are participating in good stewardship and continuing to provide resources monetarily and otherwise to keep this ministry growing. It's really important. I think the last thing I want to say, I said lastly before, but not quite. I want to share with you an interesting story that Jesus says is talking about in John chapter 8, when they're talking about what it means to be set free. And Jesus says, "Truly I tell you that if you are free, if you know the truth, you're free indeed," right? So basically saying, if you know the Word of God, you're free. And what's interesting about that is, when we think about the depth of our relationship with God, the more that we allow the Word into our minds and into our hearts, the deeper we go, the more righteousness, the more holiness, the more heavenly teachings enter into us, and they begin to purge out those things that are not of those things I just mentioned, okay? And so Jesus, when he's talking to some Jewish folks that are riding on the coattails of being Abraham's descendants, that they believe they're free because they've never been enslaved again. And Jesus really says, you are free from that slavery, but you're still being held captive because you're not willing to allow room in your heart for my word. And it's the word that sets us free. It's the word that guides us in difficult ways, in difficult times in life. It's the word that lets us see joy in the times of struggle. It's the word that helps us take the next step forward when we do not want to lift our foot up, right? It's the word that sustains us. And the more that we take it in, the more that we understand God. In fact, Jesus says in that same passage in chapter 8 of John that if we don't allow the word in, then we are only a slave to ourselves, to sin. And we can't be a family member of God if we're a slave to something that's opposite of God. So think about that. Think about how you, on a daily basis, can take the Word of God in a little bit more. Because the more that you take the Word of God in, then the less of the world that you have in you. And the more that we take the Word of God in, the more holiness we receive, the more heavenly teachings we receive, and the more that we are part of God's family. So that's just a quick word for you. Thanks for tuning in today for the Pastor's Update, and I'll be praying that you take the Word of God in more than you are now, and that you will consider joining a small group, because there you'll certainly be taking it in with a group of people who love you. God bless. Have a great week, and I will talk to you in 2 weeks when I get back from my little hiatus that I'm taking. Take care.